I'm Max Lopez. This is the Blue Wave. Last night, we saw Tim Walz and JD Vance duke it out on the debate stage in what was certainly the most substantive debate that we've had out of the three so far in this presidential campaign cycle. So I'm going to kind of give you guys my overarching thoughts of what went down in the debate. And in subsequent videos, I'll break down more specific moments and get into more of the nitty gritty of what happened. But I wanted to get a video out giving you guys my general thoughts. So first off, who won, right? That's the question everyone wants to know. Who won? This debate was very interesting in that I don't believe that there is any clear winner, whereas the last two debates between Donald Trump and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, respectively, very much so had clear, definitive winners. And going back to 2016, I would say that trend would continue, where Trump won one and then Clinton won one. It was hardly ever a toss-up. I think that both sides have things to take away feeling good about during this debate. And if I had to pick a winner, I am going to go and give the edge very, very slightly to the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, in that throughout the debate, they were basically even, it seemed. There was a slip up here by Walz. Vance got a little testy with the moderators at one point, and it was essentially even until Governor Tim Walz hit JD Vance with a question that is easily going to be one of the most talked about and remembered moments of the whole debate, because it kind of exemplifies exactly why JD Vance was chosen to be Donald Trump's running mate, which I'll get into a little bit later in the video. You guys might have an idea of what I'm talking about, but I think that moment very, very slightly pushed Tim Walz over the edge in my eyes. Although there are many, many things that you could say about JD Vance and how he did that would make him the winner as well. So yeah, very interesting debate and how even it was and how different that was from the past debates we've had. I wanted to make a note here of media both sidesing once again, kind of the debate decorum going downhill, and debates, more recent debates kind of turning into these talking over each other matches and these low blows and personal insults and ugly attacks that we know happen quite a bit in the debates now. This issue is solely a Donald Trump issue, right? That he brought into and injected into our American politics. It's not where this is something that both sides have a problem with. And prior to 2016, the Democrats would participate in this sort of behavior during the debates. It was Donald Trump and his braggadocious style and his brash style of debating and his inclination to give people these little soundbite nicknames and make fun of people's physical stature and their appearance. Donald Trump brought that into American politics in 2016, and we've seen it and dealt with it ever since then. And I kind of don't appreciate the media going, oh, what a breath of fresh air this is, that both sides can be respectful and have decorum. I'm pretty sure that it's a Donald Trump issue. And the fact that Donald Trump wasn't on that stage is why we were able to have a debate where the candidates weren't talking over each other and yelling at each other and constantly insulting each other. So props to JD Vance for that, because a lot of people, including myself, thought that he would most likely stoop to that kind of attacks on Tim Walz. He steered clear of it, and it scored him some points for sure. And I would like to see more debates like that going forward. Hopefully, once we vote Donald Trump out, we can have more debates like that. So I just wanted to make a note of that. But yeah, very hard to say a clear winner. I'll give the edge slightly to Tim Walz. Walz's weaknesses. I felt that his response rather, to the question on whether or not he was at Tiananmen Square, which was something that I was not even aware of before the debate. I thought that he gave kind of this rambling, long-winded answer where he ultimately ended up calling himself a knucklehead in his response. I felt that he could have been a little more succinct with that and kind of just been a little more to the point of, I may have misspoke or I made a mistake. People make mistakes. And he kind of circled back around to that kind of conclusion later on in the debate. But I think that Tim Walz shouldn't have called himself a knucklehead. Just get that word out of your vocabulary. Calling yourself a knucklehead in front of the American people is never going to score you any points. And I feel like he could have probably anticipated that question a bit better and had a bit better of a prepared response. Strengths for Tim Walz. So I think Tim Walz really won the debate when, towards the end, basically in overtime, if you will, he asks JD Vance. The topic was January 6th and the chaos that happened on that day. And we know that a lot of the chaos that happened on that day was centered around the vice president's role in confirming the electoral votes in the ceremonial process. And a lot of Trump world and Trump himself, they sought to stop Mike Pence from completing his role in confirming the electoral votes. And ultimately, that's what led people wanting to hang Mike Pence, and they brought a gallows for him on January 6th. Towards the end of the debate, Tim Walz asked JD Vance a very pointed question. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election? To which JD Vance responds, Tim, I'm focused on the future. And Tim Walz interjects and says, that's a very damning non-answer. It was indeed a very damning non-answer, because after all of the drama around Mike Pence, after Donald Trump was ousted from the White House on January 20th, 2021, a lot of questions swirled around Mike Pence's relationship with Donald Trump, and really the lines were being drawn in loyalty to party and loyalty to country. And Mike Pence very much so chose loyalty to country. But the thing is that when Donald Trump was speculating on who he wants as his running mate and ultimately chose JD Vance, a lot of people were saying that Donald Trump is not going to make that mistake a second time in choosing a vice president that would go against him and not just be his lackey at every single step of the way and do every single ounce of Donald Trump's bidding. And when JD Vance was chosen, a lot of people thought, yes, this is JD Vance's most redeeming quality in the eyes of Donald Trump, would be that he would be someone that would do every single ounce of his bidding. And when Tim Walz sort of brought up that, line of questioning, JD Vance says, we're looking to the future. We're not worried about the 2020 election. And Tim Walz goes, that's a very damning non-answer. it is a very damning non-answer because it shows that JD Vance ultimately will just go along with whatever Trump wants him to do. And on January 6th, Mike Pence was the last line of defense from democracy to dictatorship and autocracy. And he stood and held firm on the side of democracy. And it was very clear based on the answer that JD Vance would not do the same. Now, Vance's strength. There was a lot of talk about the weirdness of JD Vance and kind of an inability to come off as authentic and personable in a lot of his interactions on the campaign stump and doing these different visits to these shops and restaurants that he's gone to. He came off as very normal, which was something that he definitely needed to do because there was a lot of people that were looking for him to slip up and have a weird moment. But he came off as normal. He came off as personable. He somehow had a really good response on abortion and was able to show empathy and consideration for women seeking abortions, which was, I wasn't expecting that at all. And overall, he was a very slick, very smooth talker. He came off as somebody who has been training for this moment for his entire life. He came off as the kid who did the high school debate after school stuff, went to Yale and continued to debate and talk and kind of use his linguistic skill to make his way up in the world. And that's exactly what we saw, is somebody who's been talking their whole life, and really their whole life has led up to this one moment. And JD Vance was very smooth. His body language was on point, and overall he did good on that kind of side of the debate, if you will. Weaknesses for JD Vance is January 6th answer that's going to be talked about over and over and over again. Him saying that we need to look past the 2020 election. Very, very telling on what he would do if he was in the position of Mike Pence. It seemed like he was at some points backing away from the MAGA political talking points. It seemed like he was running more for his own future at certain points, and a future presidential run or future campaign runs of his own, rather than making the case for MAGA. Very, very strange to hear JD Vance pretty much in real time warming up to quite a few of the Democratic Party's talking points. Very, very strange. I wasn't exactly sure what to make of that, other than that the Republicans are trying to appeal to as many people as possible. And perhaps Walz could have hit a little bit harder on abortion and a couple of other points where the Republicans all of a sudden had empathy and had these solutions that we know that they're not actually working towards or wanting to do. It seemed like he was backing away from the most extreme MAGA talking points at some points in the debate, which was strange. And another thing that JD Vance failed to do was he failed to link Joe Biden's brand with Kamala Harris, I feel. And in attacking Kamala Harris so much and hardly even mentioning Joe Biden's name, I feel that was definitely a missed opportunity for the Republicans there, because we know how the country feels about Joe Biden. We know how the country feels about Joe Biden's age. They're not the biggest fans. And I feel like there was a missed opportunity for Vance to link Harris with Joe Biden's record on the economy and on immigration, even though, you know, we all know that a lot of those things are Donald Trump's fault. You know, the worsening inflation and the crisis at the border. We know how Donald Trump and his policies directly contributed to that. But I thought that Vance was going to go a little harder on that. And this being the one and only debate, you wonder if there is kind of a missed opportunity there from the Republicans to hammer a bit harder on that and link Kamala Harris with Joe Biden's administration. It seemed like a lot of the focus was on Kamala Harris herself, which was strange. Very, very strange, I thought. That's pretty much all I got for the overarching debate. Tim Walz, I'll give him a very, very slight edge in coming out on top just based on the January 6th question. JD Vance, very polished, very well put together, very well spoken, very articulate. Of course, he lied quite a bit, but unfortunately with these debates, it's where, you know, how people feel and how people perceive is often more important than the actual words that you're saying. And JD Vance, he was able to keep it together and give a good performance. He slipped up a bit when he started talking over the moderators, and he was actually, you know, lamenting the fact that he was fact checked, saying, "Oh, I didn't agree to this," and they had to cut off his mic. But overall, I feel that Trump world will be satisfied with JD Vance's performance. There's no major gaffes. He was very polite to Tim Walz, which I thought was also very strange. You would have expected them to go a little harsher on Biden's record, but overall, JD Vance did good. Tim Walz did good. It was a substantive debate with lots of talk about domestic issues. I thought that the questions were good. You would have liked to see a question in there about Ukraine. That seemed like a missed opportunity there, but we did get to hear quite a bit on domestic issues that are often not always brought up during these debates, given the short time that they have. And yeah, it was a good debate, good on CBS, for running a good debate. And it really did feel like kind of a throwback to, you know, the before 2016 days. It felt more like a Obama Romney, Obama McCain debate, and it was refreshing. It was refreshing to not hear the candidates yelling at each other. It was refreshing that it was a little bit boring at sometimes, because honestly, politics should be boring. It shouldn't be as exciting and entertaining as it is in this country. But that's where we're at. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share with someone who's into politics, and it helps you to take my channel more seriously. Share the word to more and more people. And until then, I'll catch you guys in the next video. All right, take care.